All right, we are live, and here with Cruz. This one's
Hey,
another
what's going
kind
on?
of special one because I found out yesterday about what your plan was. But yeah, guys, what's up? Phil and Cruz, Waypoint Cafe. I gotta pop on my headphones, so you guys might hear an echo from this recording here. How you doing, Cruz?
Me, good. Yeah, good weekend and everything. Just still planning a new travel adventure, which is what we're going to be going over today. Along with, probably should have thrown in the title, but I want to kind of get into the topic of Google, Facebook, and Twitter potentially just having too much power. And
Okay.
how do you feel about it? What should happen? I mean, investment wise, they've been great.
Oh yeah.
They've been
Oh yeah.
producing, they've been making money. I've made money off of them, but is it right? What they the type of power that they actually really have and can censor and can control, um, with really almost no oversight, because their power is so vast that unless government as a whole, both parties were to actually get together and agree on anything, there's almost no way to stop them or control them. You have Google, who can literally control what you get back for search results. And it controls 80% of all searches, which drives all of people's knowledge nowadays.
Mm.
Like, let's be serious. I mean, it drives what everybody sees, unless you know that you're looking for a particular item and really specifically look for that particular item from a different outlet or different source, you're not getting it back. Um, Google can just completely erase companies, erase the viability of companies if they stop placing ads on them because they blacklisted them because they don't agree with what those sites are saying. Even if the sites aren't saying things that are, in my opinion, bad or wrong, they're just freedom of speech items. They're not inciting violence or different things. They're just different views. Google decides that you're on their blacklist for ads, and that's it. You're done. You're no longer profitable. You won't make any money. Um, with no oversight. And that's when you have that type of power and that type of control, you are a monopoly and you are controlling the conversation of society. Like that's pretty scary. I'm fine if they let everything go, which is what I would say let everything go. Step back, you have your platform, you only step in and police it under this minuscule of things. You police a site and stop showing it if they're saying, well, here's the meetup time to go in, bomb the White House. Yes, bring that down, of course. Like, that it's not really a topic of discussion. I mean, yes, that would be brought down. But excluding a very, very minute set of cases, they need to stay out of it. Or if they truly are a monopoly, like that and they are using and making those decisions, something has to happen. Um, and there was some meetings recently about it, obviously, with Republicans, the Democrats. I believe there was a House committee meeting. Um,
Mm.
Twitter was not there. Google was represented. Facebook was represented. There has to be something. I love capitalism. I love big business, but this might be getting close to one of those circumstances where this is the gets to the point of too much control, the evil side of capitalism in some aspects.
Sure. I think this is a great discussion. And you know me, I like talking about these things because, yeah, I'm a capitalist too. I'm an investor of all those companies besides Twitter. So it's one of those things where this is an important discussion to have. Um, and the the point that you bring across too is very important, especially this day and age because it's moving such at a rapid pace. But first, before we get to that, though, um, what sparked you wanting to start the discussion today? Was it just a continuation of stuff that we were talking about before, and then leading up
Yeah,
to
it was
what we're doing now?
basically it was just our pre-continuation, and it was kind of on my mind from stuff I was reading and listening to earlier that it kind of got me a little worked up about it. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and generally, I'm like we've talked about before. I'd say step away from the big business, but this is one of those where this is actually why we have the federal government, and they probably do need to do some evaluation on both sides. Like people need to make their opinions.
Yeah.
Large tech companies should not be able to be making opinions for people at all.
Mm.
Whatever that opinion is, I don't care what the opinion is. I don't care what side it is, what the discussion is, what your viewpoint is. They don't make them. They need to step away from censoring, except for a very minute set of guidelines that I would suggest probably is defined through the voting process by the United States government.
Mm.
If you're a U.S. company, um, and and then that's how it goes. That's why we have this set up. That's why we have these oversights in place.
Mm.
Uh, I'm not for just immediately hitting them with the hammer and saying, "Oh, you're a monopoly, break you up," because they do a great job. They didn't get to this point because they're doing a bad job with their product. But now that they've done such a great job with their product and have this power, they need to make there needs to be oversight to make sure it's not abused in any way, shape, or form. When you control that much of the search, you can put out whatever you want. And before anybody figures out that it's going on, it's going to be way too late. You've already driven the narrative and you've already had an enormous impact.
Well, here's the interesting thing, right? So these large companies control the flow of information. You know, let's just be honest about it, right?
Oh, they absolutely control it.
The strange thing is that they're so large now that if there were a backlash from society, nothing would change. No, people wouldn't stop using YouTube. People wouldn't stop using Facebook, which gives it all the more reason to support like what you're saying. You know what I mean? They're so powerful. You know, they might be getting pressure socially. Like say in the U.S. with being more liberal and things like that. But they're so large that the effect of people using or not using their services is slim to none. You know what I mean? Like
No, they
it's
have to be used. So
yeah,
it's not even like you can't even boycott them. You can't boycott them. People can say, "Oh, I'm not going to use them." Okay, sure. Start going through your life without using Google. Let me know how it goes. Let
yeah. It's extremely difficult. You can actually see that with the browsers because you know how I was telling you before. I use a lot of different browsers.
Yeah,
All of them are based on Chromium, which is made by
yeah,
Google.
yeah. Of course, they
Right.
all are.
So, I mean, I have my my ARM machine. It uses Chromium. So it's very difficult to get outside of the scope of the services that they provide. And speaking about browsers, um, Mozilla was under well, they've been under enormous pressure, but they laid off a bunch of employees. But they recently just won quite a bit of funding from guess who? Google. you
I
know
bet they did.
you know what I mean? So like the
They did.
scope, and I don't know if you follow like the actual hardware that goes into piping the internet in the world, and but the ones a large majority of the cables that the internet cables that run in the ocean are actually
Mhm.
owned by Google.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so they're a full vertically integrated company. Not only do they bake the cake, they also eat it too. So
Yeah.
it's like
And I'm fine with that, right?
yeah, no,
Great job, guys. You got great investments, great decisions, great product. I mean, nothing. this is the one time that we have the US government oversight. This is one of those where with us, here, that I'm always like, leave me alone, let me do what I want. This is one of those where I say, you know what, guys, this is why you were elected. Time for you to actually step up and do something, actually come up with some intelligent questions than some of those absolute asinine ones that were asked during some of the committee hearings, asking Mark Zuckerberg about a item that was put out on Twitter. Like, can you get your question straight? Like, his response literally was, "Sir, that's not my platform." Like, God. Like, so okay, guys, like let's get together. Don't crush them. Don't go about it by breaking them up. If there needs to be some fines in place, sure, put some fines in place. So so that way there's actually some monetary repercussions. I'm not huge on that, but there has to be something. And make sure that they just have the oversight that they're doing what's right. It's not about monopolies are only monopolies when they're hurting society. You can be a monopoly and own the majority of share if you do a phenomenal job if you're not hurting society. So they have to step in. They need to step in and make sure that it doesn't get any farther than it's already gone.
Well, let's do a little backtracking here. So one of the things, so talking about like breaking up breaking up companies, has to do with the antitrust laws, right?
Correct.
But anyone who's watching or who gets to watch this later on, the antitrust laws were actually put on by the Republicans. And one of a prime example of one of those things that occurred was actually the breakup of the oil company. I think it was like Standard Oil by the Rockefellers. So if you look across the U.S.,
that's the original. That kicked off the whole conversation. That's everything.
Oh yeah, because if you look at the whole U.S. with like Sunoco, Exxon,
they wouldn't exist
Sinclair,
without. Yeah, they wouldn't exist without that.
And the same thing with AT&T. The reason why there's Verizon, AT&T, CenturyLink, and I forgot one other company, but it's actually because
Bell Atlantic got hit.
Well, I think Bell Atlantic was one of the original, but yeah, AT&T, Bell Atlantic.
The original. Yeah.
So that's how they split up. They're originally one company. So maybe that makes sense to do something like that, because if you think about it, right? Companies like Facebook, Amazon, Google. Let me talk about Amazon real quick, because this is a piece of news that I saw recently. One of the things, so Amazon does this like springboard program, or what do they call it? A incubator program. And what they did was they had companies enter this incubator program, and the companies that were, showing their financials and all the trade secrets and stuff like that to Amazon to hopefully win this program. Amazon ended up just making their own system that this company did. Better and cheaper.
Such a dirtbag move. So bad.
So I mean, if you think about it too, right? They're closing the loop of their processes, right? That's one of the ways that these companies, become completely vertically integrated, where they buy companies that construct or manufacture certain things that they do, right? So like, they have the software that handles the logistics. Well, instead of subcontracting that, they just buy the company that does it.
Walmart. Most recently, Walmart did that enormously by getting contracts with people that produce, different companies that produced jeans, sneakers, shirts, apparel, different items like that. Did it for a little while, put them under a terrible contract because the volume was so amazing, and then ended up just starting to produce it themselves for cheaper, and then just basically, put them out of business and just started sourcing it themselves. So.
But at the same token, though, companies already do that. So if you look at like a Whole Foods, Amazon, but you look at Market Basket out here in Massachusetts, right? They they source other brands. They also make their own brand, so they um, private label a lot of products that they don't manufacture themselves, but they do have their own brand that they show.
And in certain factors, I'm okay with that. You know, if you want to start private labeling when you're going directly to a manufacturer and everything, that's okay. Walmart was kind of dirty about it. They put some people under some bad contracts. Granted, they didn't have to sign the contracts, but they did it over stages. They gave them a reasonable contract. Then they got them with such a high volume
Mm,
with that first contract that this company had to expand in order to meet the needs. They're excited. You know, this is an amazing contract.
mm,
Time for contract renegotiation time. Now they have more equipment leased out. They have more employees out now because they're trying to fulfill these needs. Walmart now comes in with a renegotiate. You can't back away from them. You have to take the renegotiation because you've just expanded and in order to fulfill their contract. So now during the renegotiation, they're holding them over a barrel and they put them into bad contracts and then ended up just sourcing it themselves. So it wasn't just an immediate thing, but it was a stage. They got
mm.
them, hooked them, made them expand, made them become dependent on them, then took advantage of them.
Well, one of the crazy things I think with these large corporations is that I don't know if it reminds me a lot like Blade Runner, right? It's not the government that controls everything. It's actually the corporations, the very large corporations. Um, I think that there's a new game called Cyberpunk 2077 or something like that that's coming out. That
I've seen that before. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it actually looks super good, like storyline wise. Um, you know, everything else. I'm actually thinking about picking that up. It comes out in September, but the storyline is about that. So it's these half man, half android people, but it's a dystopian society, and the large tech corporations are actually the ones that run the world. Strange how that
So
these creative stories are kind of these like science fiction stories are no longer science fiction.
I actually have kind of analogy I used the other day about stuff like that. I'll go over in a second. But yeah, no, it's crazy. Well, I use the same thing. I'm like, right now with like the plastic dividers, the separation of plastic, the social distancing, the switch to more virtual, just online communication, even more so than we already were because of what's going on. I'm like, this is phase one to literally just being like plugged into the matrix and people don't leave their houses. Like this is not human society. This is the exact opposite of being human and interacting with people. Um,
I agree. I agree. I mean, I've
like
played.
I,
No, go ahead.
I'm like in 30 years, 40 years, you're gonna look back and be like, oh well, that this was day one transition. Like this is how we got here.
Well, the funny thing is, and you and I we talk about this stuff quite a bit, but one of the things that made me kind of cringe was so when I got back to the U.S. and I went to the grocery store, right, and had all the arrows and you had to go in this direction and that direction, and all I could think of was, wow, we are being so trained to just follow and just follow and just follow.
Yeah. So picture everybody where they are right now, 6 feet apart, standing at attention with their little masks on. Right now, everybody has regular normal clothes on, right?
Yeah.
Take that scene as is. You're like, oh, that's because of COVID. Swap out all those clothes, put the same uniform on everybody, and tell me how you feel about that picture.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Like, it's it's I don't like it at all. I don't. It's
well, just
not. It doesn't feel right.
well, just health wise, right? Between what is it? Like one socially and mentally. So there's that social development with connecting with other people. Um, the other aspect too is um, just the mental development with, well, actually all the social part, but the next part is just the the health benefits of being around people all the time. You know, like, yeah, people do get sick. Like, during the wintertime, more people get sick, right, during the winter if they go to the office. So one person gets the bug, the other person gets the bug, right? Um, you end up building a tolerance to a certain type of sickness over time, right? So the immune system's a lot better. But now, if everyone's all separated away and we're all kind of in all our everyone's in their little bubble, you know, what does that change to the physiology of the body? Between the mental connection with people, both physical and um, you know, being in the physical location, and then on top of that, just communicating. Like, how are these things transforming what's going on in our synapses and what's going on in our body, um, which is, again, it's very strange, ironic, because we're doing this video, you know, um, which we should probably next time we should probably get together and do a video in person.
Yeah, we can do it. Let's do it in the same place next week. Let's do
Yeah,
something.
let's do that. All right. So anyone who's watching out there,
Okay.
we're gonna find a place where we're gonna do the video together, so we're not separated, and the video quality is gonna be a lot better too. But I mean,
Okay.
these are important things. If you've seen the videos over time, Cruz and I do quite a bit of research on this kind of stuff because, one, we're interested, but part of it too is we also want to be safe, especially since both he and I travel, and especially Cruz now. He's been doing that travel bug thing, but you have to stay well informed. But also you have to, you know, for us, it's really about just coming up with our own decisions. And and correct me if I'm wrong here, Cruz, but you, uh, but the situation right now is like it's almost like the decisions are being made for us, and it's really kind of dug into the household and what we're doing on a regular basis.
Everything. And I understand how they are where they are right now, of course. Based on the data, everything that was presented, sure, I understand why we're there right now. My only big thing about, as far as the society, the social aspects of things that are in place, is the second we reach whatever point, which is another discussion about the fact how we're just going along with no set point of goal or anything, just completely being magically made up and decided for us on a day-to-day basis with no actual, timeline or finish line being defined, which is absurd, but that's completely different. Um, I want everything reverted, everything back to the way it was. I don't want get rid of the markers on the floor, get rid of all this other stuff. I'm done with it. I don't want any of it there.
Well, you know what I've been finding? Like all this, arrows to go down this path in the grocery store. It actually causes more clusters. It actually causes more, like, people congregating in one area. And
I've intentionally gone the opposite way.
it,
I won't even pretend that I haven't. I've seen the
it,
arrow and I intentionally went the opposite way.
it, well, the whole thing is just, you know, like I was telling you before, right? In Ecuador, I have to bring this up on several occasions because so they restricted, so places restrict the amount of time that a store is open. On top of the fact that they closed every store out there, right? Except for these big groceries and whatnot. And the crazy thing is, you ended up getting more crowds in the available time, that
Mm.
the grocery store was open, and, like, it just didn't make any sense to me. It just didn't make any sense to me. Like, if the idea was to keep everyone separated, wouldn't it be a better idea just to have everything open all the time and just give everyone the warning, like, hey, practice safe distance and things like that. And it was like every place you went was like there were just clusters and clusters of people, crowds just wrapped around a store. It's like, it didn't make any
It's
sense.
Just it is no. The other thing, you know what this other thing is killing? This kills spontaneity. I've lost count of how many times I've been like, you know what, I'm just gonna go out and go grab a quick little bite to eat or drink or something, and I can't achieve that simple goal because one, it's either not open. Two, I should have to make a reservation to try and get a seat at a bar to have a little dinner, even with a socially distant. Like, nope, we're all booked up. No, we're not doing this. No, not doing that. Like, I did have a conversation with a friend recently. They're like, you know what, I kind of like it with the less people and everything. Like, you know what? That's your opinion, of course, but there's literally no spontaneity. You can't just go and just do. Oh, you know what? Let's just go and do this. Well, you know what? Let's check on it. If that has to come back. That has to come back. You can't control every aspect. Oh, well, did you make a reservation to go here or this or that? Every single thing, every step of your life. That's not living. That's crazy.
Yeah, if you guys in the audience there, if you guys have any comments or questions, I mean, feel free to drop us a line. Like I said, there's part of the reason why Cruz and I talk about this type of thing is because, like I said, if you're one of those people that travels, and especially under these circumstances, you know, you're gonna want to know about what the situation is as far as with health, with travel. Is the technology going to work when you arrive at a place? These are types of things that you have to kind of anticipate when you go. But at the same time, you also want to have that freedom to have that spontaneity that Cruz was talking about there, and it has really made the travel situation that much more difficult. And just a quick update too. I contacted the consulate today. Cannot get a hold of the consulate
here in the U.S. or
yeah, here in the U.S. And so there's a link, right? So I googled the consulate in Connecticut. There's like they have the kind of like the banner that shows the website, and the website goes to their Facebook page. Their Facebook page, not their own dedicated web page. No, their Facebook page. Just wrap your head around that just for a second. A government, yeah, the consulate, a government entity directs you to their Facebook page. Okay, that is how big Facebook is. That's how big Facebook is.
That's a little nuts, actually. So yeah, I think that definitely, as we discussed, that some of those companies needed to be oversight, and then obviously we kind of zigzagged around. But yeah, that was just some stuff that I just been thinking about. A little different than some other stuff that we've talked about and everything, and actually maybe a different actual viewpoint than what would be expected. But yeah, no, there's somebody needs to step in when it starts really getting on that border where they're controlling the narrative. That's what the government. That's when I want the government to actually do something.
And this is my own personal view here, but if there's anyone in the audience who has a different opinion from what Cruz and I have, maybe you should jump in on the show one of these days, and we can have a nice healthy debate. Because I always want to try to learn something new, and I know Cruz does as well. But we want to be able to kind of come to some middle ground, have an open discussion about some of these things that are kind of happening in our own backyard, for lack of a better term. And this whole the whole thing that's going on right now with the quarantine and all that stuff, that's happening all across the world. Everyone's being affected by it to some degree, and some people are doing well from it. Other people are not. So we'd like to keep that discussion open, and obviously invite people to voice your opinion. We're not going to judge you. We might not agree with you, but if you have a different view, but we'd like to be able to get some intelligent discussions going about the situation that's going on right now in the world. Because, like I said, for Cruz and myself, we like to travel, we like to experience new stuff, but at the same time, I personally think that that some of our freedoms are really being suppressed in a lot of different ways. And the crazy thing is, it's not being enforced, not just technology itself, but our own neighbors, our own friends, our own, family members and things like that. It's a combination of I don't want I wouldn't want to say that someone's going rogue, but that their ideals are overtaking being a good person in some regards, you know, like there's, or at least like or at least disregarding others' opinions, when talking about these types of things, because these are at this time very sensitive topics that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's not easy to talk about. Not that it's not easy to voice it and everything. It's tough to have the discussion with people that disagree with you because it's a very, obviously it's a strong opinion that you're going to have about it, and it's going to be usually it's a pretty opposite feel. It's very difficult to find some middle ground on some of these things. But that's okay. You just gotta. It's tough to like just have the talk and not get frustrated and not, oh, why do you think this? You're such a dummy. Blah. It's very easy to go down that, but you got to still at least have the talk. Try and find some middle ground. There's going to be stuff that you agree on, but some people don't even want to have the discussion. They just completely shoot you down.
Yeah. Well, I think the most dangerous thing is to blindly just follow an idea or an ideal. Like for me, so I consider myself like a loyal person. However, I don't try to be loyal on in the sense of being blindly loyal. Like, oh hey, this like the Trump thumpers, right? For instance, like some people just absolutely just love Trump. Fine, whatever, no big deal. And some people are, really far off on the left. But I want to know why. You know what I mean? There has to be a reason other than just the belief, and that gives it more gravity other than just saying having an opinion. It gives it more authority when someone has things to back up what they believe, you know. And I think some of that's a little bit lost, and that's why I think sometimes opinions um can be very volatile between people. So I think those types of things, because like when I'm talking with someone, you know, I'd like to think that they put a little bit of effort into investigating what they're into or what they believe, right? Because you want to have that good discussion with somebody. I know sometimes you and I, when we talk, we're preaching to the choir, but there's times that
Yeah,
we disagree. It's just like, okay, cool, we disagree, but we have viable points that I come back and I think about it, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a good point that that Cruz brought up.
sure,
Um,
of course, yeah.
you know, so there's I think some of that is a little bit lost in some of these discussions about what's going on. But the situation with the large corporations are very real, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they really are. I think that, I mean, some of them is across the corporations, and I mean, then it does kind of segue into the news media outlets, which those are monopolies. It's a very slippery slope if you even discuss policing news media outlets, but I think that there is an extreme looseness on what is presented as news and fact, and not presented and clearly outlined as this is an op-ed. Like, this is an opinion piece. I didn't even source half of this data that I'm putting out for you. Um, And I don't, it's very difficult for me to be like, oh, there should be government oversight on that. But there should be something, maybe not fines, but they have to at least redact or edit articles that are blatantly proven to be false and not just left out if they, follow your narrative and aren't true news. If you are classified as a press news organization with press credentials for delivering news to the public, you have to be held actually accountable for certain standards. And no media outlet is at all, any of them. They all get away with putting out whatever they want. And that's wrong.
Well, so one of the I think the tough thing that's happening with a lot of network television or just networks in general is the competition for eyes and ears, right? So I think part of the problem is that with things like YouTube and things like Facebook, where everything is just a click away, it's very hard to compete for the attention of an audience. And one of the ways that they draw the attention of the audience um, is to um, is to sensationalize every story, sensationalize the headlines, sensationalize the story.
I'm okay with baloney headlines a little bit. I get it. That's clickbait. You got to drive some ad. But then that article better be fact. If you're a news press organization, I know if it's not, you better clearly define it at the top that this is a blatant op-ed opinion piece. Otherwise, like, you're just doing huge disservices to the general public.
Oh yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you on in that regard. Um, the most, like I said, a lot of it is just the competition now is just is really steep.
Yeah,
For
there's no
instance,
printed, no newspapers. There's no printed stuff anymore. I mean, technically there is, but
yeah,
I mean, let's be serious.
like I mean, you and I are having commentary right now. It's like we're taking away several viewers that someone else could have on their news channel, specifically because we
Yeah,
have it on there. But on top of that, any given time, someone could sit down and watch the older videos that we posted. And again, that's kind of that's part of the reason why you know Google, YouTube has control of the media, um, because it's I mean, essentially, it's democratized the ability for people to get out there and become or to speak their voice. In some regards, right now, there's some restrictions from some of the stuff that you and I have been talking about earlier in this video, but the important thing is the competition now is very steep. It's like, and it continues to do that because there's always new YouTube channels. There's always someone posting on Facebook. There's people doing podcasts. I mean, I have several buddies that do podcasts now, and I try to catch up with the stuff that they're doing. Because I have to prepare for our show, and then on top of that, trying to catch up with what they're doing, and they're trying to get out there. So in that sense, you know, and I think that's one of the good things now, and part of why you and I having this conversation is good because now our voice can be heard, right? It's no longer everyone's just watching TV, and then people can't comment. Now people are putting comments on videos and things like that, or posting likes and whatever it is. So there's a lot more capabilities for people to have their voice heard and things like that. That's really putting these networks in a little bit of a squeeze, but it doesn't make it right that they because of those situations doesn't make it right that they're posting stuff to make to falsify some stories and things like that. And that's all news outlets for sure. Like, I totally agree with that. Um, there's some news networks out there that just complete, like, their headlines are explosive
Oh,
conference
I
or
mean,
whatever it is.
come on. Like, not to just disparage whatever, but like the Huffington Post, like, really, we're gonna take the Huffington Post seriously? Like, I'll bash them. I don't care. Like, whatever. Like I'll read my article. I'll read articles from CNN, even though that they have kind of generally a much different opinion than I am. But yeah, I draw the line at some spots, and I start drawing the line around the Huffington Post area, and
Sure.
that's where I get the BuzzFeed. Sometimes BuzzFeed, nah, they're usually full of it. But there's some other like blatantly, left or liberal media outlets that you can read. You may not completely agree with them, all right, but they still actually hold a bit of credibility. There's other ones that, like, if you cite me an article from there, like I'm done. Like, I immediately close-minded. Like I'm good. I don't believe anything that it was just said, because they just, in my opinion, just basically how they fish for clicks and everything. They hold no respectability in my mind. It's just the way it is, and I'm sure people feel the same way about other sides. You have your cores, but even the cores are guilty of it. Probably more than 50% of the time. I don't have any exact numbers on it, of course, to review every article, but they're just as guilty of it too. Whether you're, Fox News, CNN, any of them, they're all MSNBC. They're all guilty of it, just like everybody else. Boston Globe is an absolute. If you don't know if you're familiar with it, Boston Globe is such a trash periodical nowadays. Like it's insane. They're so two-faced. They're so purchased and bought. It's nuts. They have nothing. We'll say nothing down the middle, even to even say, and will blatantly destroy people that don't agree with their views, and then ignore people that agree with them but have committed absurd acts. Like, oh yeah, you want to cover that article? No, not really, because they kind of believe what we want to believe. So how can Boston Globe, you're supposed to be a newspaper. That's the world we live in nowadays.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like, oh, the news, the news is no longer the news. The newspaper is no longer the newspaper. It's now it's just as, you know what it is. To be honest, it's just as entertaining to watch the news as it is to, try to parse through like dry information about politics, because at least at some sense, right? More people are paying attention to what's going on in politics, or at least somewhat, to some degree. But I was talking to my father the other day. I was like, oh, it's like, it's actually just fun to watch some of this stuff because of how sensational the stories are, that, or just how much fluff is in it.
If you want to get a real sense of anything, you have to try and get like the full unedited clips of press speeches and everything, or watch C-SPAN. Like besides that, it's tough sometimes.
Yeah. No, it really is. Like, and one of those things too. It's like, oh, like to get a real sense of what happened in the hearing. Oh, you got to watch some of the hearing, or you got to
which hearing? Like the
with Barr,
Barr, Kavanaugh.
Yeah. Oh, that was a very touchy.
Yeah, we won't go. That's like 14 episodes. That show.
Yeah, it was a show. It played out like a show.
The question, there was questions in there that were asked that were so embarrassing. Like, whatever aid. I know you didn't write it. Like, let's be serious. Like, whether you're a Republican, we all know you. It was an aide that wrote your questions for you. Whoever you were there, whatever aide that was. Like, if they still have a job after that meeting, you're an idiot, because some of your questions were so bad. White House, some of the stuff he asked, which is
the
official here for Rhode Island. Yeah,
Rhode Island. I was gonna say.
But let's get to something a little more fun now, and that's the fact that I decided that I'm going to Croatia. That's it, hands down. End of September into October. I used Google. They returned me things about Croatia because they like Croatia. So it was great, and that's where I'm going. Probably looking like it's going to be like a month or so stay.
All right. How did you come out with the idea for Croatia? Did
Well,
Google
they're going to let me in,
did Google tell you?
they're going to no, they're going to let me in, which is number one. So no, people were sending stuff. Our buddy, actually, I'll say like so he sent me a thing about like Barbados doing 12-month work visa, and then my sister had mentioned something like, oh, I think there's a European country doing like a 12-month work visa. We can get the 12-month visa, go stay there, and once you're there in the EU, you can travel around to other EU. I was like, well, that's very interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on that. In general. And then I talked about going to Utah, which there's a great chance I still try and just do rather than a longer, more extended stay. Maybe I just try and do like a quick vacation, week out in Utah. Might go with one of my family members. Might actually go with Mom. She said she was kind of interested in going out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it'd be a cool little trip. I mean, she won't be able to do quite the same hiking on some of the stuff, but she'll still be able to go out and go around and see a lot of the Moab and different areas. I'd have to tone it down a little bit, but overall it would still be fine. Just do it like, a 4 or 5 day thing. Because I definitely want to get out there. I still definitely want to do that Buckskin Gulch hike. That's absolutely on my bucket list now. The one that's out near Bryce and Zion. Well, the Narrows Trail in Zion is also there. But the Buckskin Gulch, which is like the longest like slot canyon, one of the longest like slot canyon hikes in the world.
Yeah.
Like that's on the list. Like I want to do that really bad. That's a quick trip. I mean, you can get your ticket, you can fly out there and go do that, spend an extra day, relax, and then come back. So, but all those things going on, this, that, and then I was looking, I saw it's the 48-hour test for Croatia. I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. And I'm like, off the top of my head, honestly, I was like, I forgot what I really wanted to see and do in Croatia. So then I started looking real quick, and I was like, wait a minute, Dubrovnik's in Croatia, which
truffles.
There's a couple. Wait, what is it?
They got like the biggest truffle or something like that up there.
There is outside of there's a part of Croatia, yeah, where like truffle hunting is like a thing. I'll definitely go truffle hunting one day out there. Like, why not? Like, that'd be awesome. But the main city that I want to stay in, and I had seen it's Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik, if you're not familiar with it, Dubrovnik is King's Landing. Dubrovnik is the medieval city that they did a lot of the filming for the King's Landing scenes from Game of Thrones. It's one of the most well-preserved medieval cities in the world. The old town of it is a automobile-free walk-only zone. It's an UNESCO World Heritage Site. Like, it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm like, okay, well, you start going down the path of like, let's check out some of the initial prices. They didn't come back so bad. I found reasonable round-trip flights. Meaning, like the quickest you can make it out to Croatia is about 10, 12 hours or so in that range. So I found some flights with mainly, there's a lot of layovers in Paris. If anybody's wondering, there's a lot of layovers in Paris for your trips out there. A lot of flights have actually potentially 2 layovers, and they usually come in around the 17 to 18 hours. Not a lot of flights go directly out for a reasonable price, go directly to Croatia. They stop. They have, you stop somewhere in Paris, one of the other major airports there, pick up some other people, drop people off, and you go. That's the flight paths that they have set up. So they came in. I found some really reasonable ones for like around the 500 mark or so round trip.
Yeah.
So not bad at all.
No, not bad at all.
Started reviewing like what's going on there. So actually, surprisingly enough, the past week or so, they actually did implement a little bit more of a curfew, because they had a 1-day spike where they actually spiked up to 180 cases in a single day, which is absurdly low. But for them, they want to keep it very, very low as far as cases. Like they're all about down, down, down. So like bars and restaurants and stuff have to implement like a 12:30 curfew for those things. And they have like a group that's going around inspecting, make sure people are staying, which is fine. I understand it. I get it. They have a fair bit of tourism actually coming to them. They don't want to sacrifice that. They want to do what's right. Or what in they want to do right. Shouldn't use right. They want to do what they think their opinion is for best success, what they believe is the best way to handle it. So that's what they're going to do. But as of right now, it's a 48-hour test. I did a lot of research on some stuff. It looks like they are taking the shorter term tests as far as landing. Basically, you need your passport, your test, and where you're staying. Hand it, photocopies, on your way. Have a nice day. And you head on in. And then now you go through that path. So I can get there pretty reasonable. The time frame, I would have the whole day free. So if you're working remote, you're out there, you're thinking about you want to do something. Say you're East Coast or even West Coast would be really aggressive. East Coast might be the one that really kind of works. West Coast would be pretty aggressive if you're on like a still kind of office hours time. I'll be working from like 3 or 4 in the afternoon to 11 or 12 at night, Monday through Friday. A little crazy, but not that bad. So it means I have to be back to wherever I'm staying around there. I'll end up, taking a break and having dinner instead of having lunch. Wrap up, clean up for the night, and I go to bed. And that's what I do at night during the week. Okay, not the end of the world. I have the whole day. When sun's out, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful during the whole day during the week to go out. And then I still have Saturday and Sunday as the weekend off to go off and do whatever I want. So it kind of just lined up there. So I started looking at housing. Housing over there, tons of great hostels, amazing reviews. They look gorgeous on a bunch of them. What they also have is great prices on Airbnbs. So I'm talking about Airbnbs in the heart of Old Town, overlooking the walls, overlooking that whole historic area. And the other for a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, $900 to $1,200 for the whole month. And the other thing about it is I reached out to, I mentioned before, buddy Pat. Pat's actually, he's in on this trip. He's going. So I would be going with him, be splitting the place. So it looks like, and I'm talking, you get this gorgeous whole condo, whole apartment, may have a little beautiful like terrace patio that you're just overlooking the walls and the ocean there right in Dubrovnik for splitting it like $500 for the month, $600 for the whole month for you to stay there. All those things really lined up great. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just prepping for that. Starting to figure out dates and times and everything. Going to do a couple weeks working and then actually take some time off to go around the country and actually enjoy it as part of an actual vacation, which would be a little different. Keep that main base because it's just cheaper and easier just to keep that one Airbnb to leave all your stuff at no matter what. So even if you want to go somewhere else for the weekend or whatever, when it's on that like time off stretch, you can just grab your backpack and go. Yeah, you're going to pay for double housing, but just having for that one security section where you can just leave everything, it's totally worth it to not have to lug everything. Be centered in Dubrovnik, fly in and out of Dubrovnik, and be all set
there. So you are ready. Did you buy your ticket already?
I did not buy a ticket yet. I had texted him just to be like, hey, we talked about this real quick. We were going back and forth. Like, can you confirm? Yes, you are absolutely in. And he's like, yes, I'm absolutely in. So I'll start the price searching for the flight, get a good travel times for those, book them up and then see where it goes from there. I'm not sure if he's going to actually be out there for me the whole time. He said he wanted to do like 2 to 3 weeks or so. work for a week or two, and then take at least a week off.
Mm.
Um, I will probably end up. Excuse me. I'm probably gonna end up staying there for probably the month.
Yeah.
Um, you know how it is. The flight, it's a big chunk of your thing. Like, yeah, staying is, but flights are too. So, the longer you stay, the cheaper that flight kind of becomes, on your daily, what you're spending and everything. And if I'm going out there, might as well, make it worth the trip out there. Um,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's the important thing to point out is that
Anybody out there, if you want to fly out, sure, come on out. We'll have an Airbnb. It'll be beautiful. Come on down.
yeah. So yeah, people that are out there watching right now, if you want to go join Cruz and check out the set of Game of Thrones,
Yeah, they have so many other areas there too that are beautiful. Split's supposed to be like gorgeous. They have some great national parks. They have the truffle hunting. They have the beaches. They have islands. There's a lot of different things to do in Croatia. Um, just the old town area, just getting up and walking around there, going getting a coffee in the morning. I think that alone is going to be interesting because it's so beautiful there, that city.
and I can't imagine either that the prices of food is going to be, you know, out of control. I feel like it's going to be fairly reasonable.
Airbnb, you have your own full. We're talking the condos that we're looking at are beautiful, gorgeous kitchens. Like the price for in that area right there for those things, it was unbelievable. For what you were getting. Go to the market, go get some. Go to the local market there, be like a real local, pick up some stuff, come back, cook, pick up. Head to the local bakery. You're gonna just live in Croatia, Dubrovnik for a month. I don't know. It's gonna be great.
Well, I think you could stay there for 180 days or something like that.
I think you can stay there for a little while.
Yeah, it's a good deal without a visa. So, and the fact that it's not heavily restricted, double advantage there as far as being able to travel. And if anyone's been out there watching the previous episodes and we talked about traveling and things like that, especially since Cruz was out there in Colorado for about a month, he's got some valuable insight. So I invite you guys to check out some of those other videos. Maybe you're doing a little bit of work and you just want something playing in the background. Listen to the commentary about some of the stuff that he talks about. There's some good info there as far as some of the experiences that he went through traveling under these circumstances that we're all in. So, and that was happening live. We were doing the videos while he was in the area. So, I don't know how we're gonna work that out, especially since the time zone is gonna be different. Because I'm gonna be on a different time zone myself. when we go out there.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll have to do some. Maybe we'll try and do a pre-recorded thing or something, a little different. Switch the times, pre-recorded and show. Maybe it won't be live. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
No pressure. You know what I mean? No pressure in that regard. I was thinking about that today actually, but we can talk about that at a different time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, thoughts about some of the things that we talked about. I know we talked about big corporations and responsibility and things like that, and we want to really get some feedback out there. Maybe drop a line in the comments later on once the video has been officially posted on the site. But if you guys know, we talk about these types of things quite a bit on this show, so we want to it's just topics that Cruz and I are interested in. Again, if you are traveling, those being well informed or just keeping your nose to the grindstone and keeping your ears to the floor with what's going on with information will help you kind of navigate through being able to travel, as well as being safe and making sure that people around you are safe as well. Because it's kind of odd times right now. As Cruz was saying before, before it was much easier to be like, oh hey, let's go out and do something. Now it's like, there's a little bit more steps that everyone has to take. But
Get
with
a plan.
yeah, but with that in mind, Cruz, any finishing statements?
Um, no, thanks. Obviously, swipe up, subscribe, join, comment, the whole deal, of course. No, the videos have been great. I'm gonna figure out what we'll do in the future about if traveling to Croatia, the time zone, the different things like that. Still definitely want to start doing some different things about maybe some pre-recorded shorter clips, some real focused hits like, hey, here's this stretch of Croatia if I'm out there, or hey, here's this stretch of this location, like real specific tailored travel things or other events. We might do maybe a specific, short edit clip about, hey, listen, you're in Master Rhode Island. You want to go and travel. This is where you go and get your rapid test. Here's the document. This is what it looks like. You go to this spot, different things like that. Just to bring information, awareness, keep people informed if they're looking for information and looking for like a firsthand account on how to just get things done and still try and enjoy your life. And right now, while things are kind of up in the air, and then talk about the things that we kind of enjoy talking about. You'll always get those in the comments a little bit, of course.
Yeah. So thank you guys very much for joining us. Hope you guys like that show. Tune in next week. And, this is a prerequisite, guys, to let you know that Cruz is going to be traveling to Croatia. I'm going to be going to Ecuador. So it's going to be a little funky in that regard. But the stuff that Cruz talked about with, short snippet videos and kind of sizzle reel stuff, we're gonna get that stuff out there, get it out there to you guys, because I think it's we actually do have a lot of B-sides videos that we've recorded, never released. Part of the reason is just the same stuff that he and I were talking about earlier in this video. So, but be on the lookout for those videos coming out, and make sure you subscribe so that you guys know the next time those videos and stuff are uploaded. So thank you very much, and we're signing off.